This is like how we would sit.
If I sit next to you on the end, I look bigger.
We can't have that.
So last week we talked about a lot of the mistakes we made along our health and fitness journey. This week we're going to talk about things we've done across our 22 to 30 plus years of existence that have dramatically improved our lives. Peter, why don't you take some?
Cool. So one thing that I'll start off with this. So maybe 4 or 5 years ago, when I started, my career past high school, where I decided where I wanted to go to college, I ended up going to one school because I didn't necessarily know what I wanted to do. I thought that this one career path, which was criminal justice, was maybe I wanted to be a cop for the rest of my life. Just kind of because I didn't really have a set idea, and it sounded like a fun, cool idea. But I got to school, and then one semester in, I realized I hated being there. I hated the people I was surrounded with, and the major wasn't exactly, inviting to me. So I figured, what do I really love to do that would kind of give me an excuse to be able to kind of transfer out of the school so I could find a better group of people to be surrounded by. So I ended up deciding, get rid of criminal justice, let's do fitness development at Cortland. So I figured I love to work out, fitness is my number one passion. So I transferred out of there, and then by doing so, I ended up having the greatest group of friends, which has helped me be better in life by being surrounded by those good people. So transferring to somewhere that's gonna help build you up in a better way. It's one major way that I changed my life.
You know what's funny is that's one of mine, and I transferred to the school that you transferred out from. So one of mine is changing schools as well. I remember being in high school, and I felt like it was very you'd be forced into where are you going? Where do you want to go to school? All my friends were going away, and I just really I didn't feel like I wanted to move far away from kind of my nest just yet, because I just wasn't sure of myself and where I wanted to be. So I went to a school that had this status, and I remember the same thing. I just wasn't around the same like-minded people. I was kind of uncomfortable in my living condition. It was close to the city, so it was very busy for me. So I went from this slow country girl pace up to this very fast city life. I had a friend that went to Oneonta, where Peter transferred out from, and she's like, come up and take a look at this school. And I remember just being there, and I was connected to so many people. They had a dance company, and they had a major that I was just so connected to. It was so fun. It was writing for radio, TV, and film. And I met some of the best friends that I'm still extremely close with. And it was just such a great change to go from a place where it wasn't comfortable with this education place or education career, and then all of a sudden went to a place that I just loved and I thrived.
I think what you two are talking about, kind of maybe this encapsulates that. So one I wrote was following my intuition and my heart, and I'll give specific examples. When I was graduating high school, I was very clear that I did not want to go to college after high school, and I was kind of in that lost limbo stage, and I decided to join the military. I did my time in the military, and did a lot of great things in there, but I knew that was not for me for life. And against everyone's wishes, I decided I wanted to get out, and all my friends and my colleagues stayed despite maybe some hazing or some saying things. So then I was in this limbo phase of going back to decided, okay, now I'm going to go to college, and I was going to college in New Jersey, and I decided this is not for me. This doesn't feel right. I moved to Delaware with high school friends, a close friend of mine. Again, to go to this big university for dietitian. I'm going to change the world through nutrition and improving that. 2 semesters in, I'm like, this is not for me. And it was through this time that I was falling in love with CrossFit and just training on in a Globo gym with a buddy who was back home. We were texting our workouts to each other, and he was the person who kind of nudged me let's look into this CrossFit thing. And I had no idea you could become a trainer or anything like this. I said, okay, something here feels right. Followed that path. At that trainer certification, I met the gentleman who just opened Railroad. This guy named Jim. He just decided to open developed railroad CrossFit in Hudson, and I decided I'm going to move back home, which felt like a kind of a step backwards for me to, you know, build this life of my own, go out in the military, live on my own, and then now I'm back home living at mom's house. But something was pulling me to this CrossFit thing. A few months later, 3 months later, that guy Jim left and asked me to manage railroad. He was doing some other business opportunities. And then a few years later, again, he was like, hey, I want out. A member actually, this guy named Dan, was like, you should talk about buying it. And I was like, okay, like, you know, that feels right too. And something inside of me, and again, with no business background, no knowledge of like how this thing was run, at that stage in like 2013, 14, something just felt right. It felt like they're following the heart, the intuition. So all those things of like kind of maybe like the grain is pushing you this way or telling you to do this, and saying like, you know what, like I'm gonna follow what feels right for me. And you know, speaking what you said and what you said resonate with like, I think a lot of people get pushed into a career decision on economics. Like you need stability, you need money, this and that, and maybe not necessarily following like what's gonna fill you, light you on fire. And that course is never straight. It's always like this up and down roller coaster, but that was definitely one that I wrote down.
Yeah, so I ditched school altogether. Like I kind of like these guys. I graduated high school. Didn't really have, like I had no idea what I wanted to do. And a lot of my friends were going to Columbia Green, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna go do this thing. Kind of just kick the wheels there for a couple of years, and then just decided like, hey, like I'm not gonna do this at all. I'm somebody who like I can't sit still like in a classroom and just read a PowerPoint or like whatever it is. So actually something like that really changed like my life drastically was at that time. I met Astrid, who comes here, and I started working at her restaurant. And not that like I completely loved it, but it was kind of like the start to maybe doing something that I really love to do, which is, you know, like interact with people. Like I like service is a big thing to me. So like in a roundabout way, like that was service is working at a restaurant. But going from maybe this place where I wasn't super fulfilled and had to like school and kind of kicking around odd jobs, to end up doing that, where I kind of like left school behind and like did something different and kind of met her to go pursue something a little bit more in line with what I wanted to do. So that was kind of like my beginning of, okay, like steering away from kind of what everybody else was doing to, okay, like I'm gonna try something new, like a little bit outside of like my comfort zone. I had no idea what I was doing when I started working there. It was like the first time I ever worked there, somebody ordered something and I forgot as soon as I walked away from them like what they had, and I was like, I had to go back 3 times and be like, I'm sorry sir, I'm new at this, like what are you having? So that was the start there, to kind of, you know, again, not really just doing something for the sake of doing something, but doing something that you enjoy, can get like love out of, and, you know, feel a little more fulfilled in doing that. So that was kind of lines up with the school story.
Very like serendipitous too. You know, when you start to like follow this path and it takes you different ways. I have another one too about kind of like going against the grain. When I did graduate college, you know, I had these jobs, service industry as well. My mother did that, so it was always like following in her footsteps of managing restaurants, and it's hard work. It's so many hours. It's working holidays, weekends, and I remember just being like so gutted when I wasn't able to be at Christmas Eve with my family, or I wasn't able to go to so-and-so's wedding because it was on a Saturday and I had to work. And I remember taking like leaps of faith into these different careers, and then finally just like one day like coming here and like, you know, just looking, I remember looking at Nolan and Sean and a trainer that used to be here, and like, they just look like they love what they're doing. They're so you know, focused on what they're doing and the person that they're working with. And I was like, I remember pulling Sean aside and like, what do you think about me getting my L1? You know, what kind of opportunity would that look like? And that was just such a leap of faith, because it was, for a while, maybe wasn't as financially, you know, dependent. I wasn't able to depend on it financially for quite some time. Like, had a couple of jobs, but then all of a sudden it became this thing where we put this work into it, and then all of a sudden it was like we're getting so much out of it. So it's not, you know, I wrote here, it's like it's a different kind of work. You know, I loved jobs in the past, but this is such meaningful work. You get to do it with people that you love, and you get to be part of this beautiful business that's developing, and we're a small team that's all being able to participate in it. So that was also another.
That's funny. I just